If you still listen to the same music from years ago, there's a reason. Maybe it happens while you're driving. Maybe it happens in a grocery store. Maybe it happens while scrolling through your phone late at night. An old song starts playing. Not a new song, not something currently trending. Something old, something you haven't heard in years. And suddenly, you're somewhere else. Not physically, emotionally. A few seconds ago, you were thinking about bills, work, responsibilities, the thousand small things that fill adult life. Now you're standing in a completely different moment, a different year, a different house, a different version of yourself. Maybe it's a song by Whitney Houston. Maybe it's Michael Jackson. Maybe it's Celine Dion. Maybe it's a song nobody else remembers except you. And somehow, those few familiar notes unlock something that has been quietly sleeping inside your mind for decades. What's fascinating is how little time it takes. 5 seconds, sometimes less, before your brain starts traveling backward. And that raises a question. Why? Why do people keep returning to the same songs year after year? Why do some songs survive every trend, every playlist, every phase of life, while thousands of others simply disappear? Most people assume the answer is obvious. They think they keep listening because they enjoy the music. But psychology suggests something much deeper. Because when people return to old songs, they're often not searching for music. They're searching for a feeling. Think about the songs that mattered most to you. Not the songs you casually liked. The songs that became part of your life, the songs you played over and over. The songs attached to first loves, first heartbreaks, first jobs, road trips, summer nights, friends you haven't seen in years. Those songs were never just background noise. They were present during moments when your identity was being formed, and your brain remembers that. Researchers who study autobiographical memory have discovered something remarkable. Music has an unusual ability to connect memories, emotions, and personal identity. In simple terms, music doesn't just remind us of what happened, it reminds us of who we were when it happened. And that's an important difference. Because most memories fade. Details disappear, conversations vanish, entire years become blurry. But somehow the song remains. The melody survives. The lyrics survive. And hidden inside them is a version of yourself frozen in time. Maybe that's why hearing an old song can feel strangely emotional. You're not only hearing the music, you're meeting a younger version of yourself. The teenager who thought life would be different, the young adults who believed everything was still possible, the person who hadn't yet experienced certain losses, certain disappointments, certain changes. And for a few minutes, they're back, still alive somewhere inside the music. Which may explain why people often become more attached to old songs as they grow older, because something happens as life moves forward. Time accelerates, years begin passing faster, the future slowly becomes smaller, while the past becomes larger, and the songs remain exactly where we left them, unchanged. The music stayed the same. We didn't. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Because it's not just that old music reminds you of the past, it actually changes the way you feel about the past. Psychologists call this nostalgia. But nostalgia is not just missing the past. That's the common misunderstanding. Nostalgia is your brain reconstructing emotional meaning from memory. In simple terms, it's not what happened that matters most. It's how you feel about what happened now. That's why the same song can feel completely different depending on when you hear it. A song you once played during a painful breakup can years later feel peaceful, even beautiful. Not because the memory changed, but because you changed and your brain reinterpreted it. Think about it. There are songs you probably avoided for years because they were tied to something painful, a person, a moment, a version of life you didn't want to revisit. But then something shifts, time passes, and one day you hear it again, and instead of pain, you feel understanding. That's not random. That's emotional processing over time. Your brain slowly rewriting the emotional weight of memory, and music becomes the trigger that opens that file again. Now here's something most people never think about. Why do we attach specific songs to specific periods of life so strongly? Why does a random song from 2012 feel like it belongs to that exact year? Psychologists suggest it's because of something called emotional encoding. When we experience strong emotions, love, excitement, heartbreak, freedom, our brain doesn't just store the event, it stores everything happening at that moment. The environment, the people, the atmosphere, and the music playing in the background becomes part of that memory structure. So years later, when that song plays again, your brain doesn't just recognize sound, it reconstructs context, almost like opening a folder inside your mind. And suddenly, you are not just remembering the past, you are reliving fragments of it. This is why music feels more powerful than photographs sometimes. A photo shows you what something looked like, but music takes you inside what it felt like. And that difference is everything, because feelings don't age the same way images do. Feelings stay alive longer than details, which is why one song can collapse an entire decade into a single emotional moment. But there is another layer to this, something even deeper. As people grow older, they don't just collect memories, they begin to collect versions of themselves. The person you were at 15 is not the same as at 20 or 25 or 30. Each version had different dreams, different fears, different beliefs about life, and music often marks those transitions. So when you listen to old songs, you are not just revisiting events, you are meeting older versions of yourself. And sometimes, that is why it feels emotional, not because the music is sad, but because you are remembering who you used to be and realizing how far you've come, or sometimes how much you've lost. And maybe that's why old music never really loses its power, because it isn't just music anymore. It's part of your personal history, a soundtrack attached to the moments that shaped you. And maybe that's the real reason people keep returning to the same songs. Not because they're stuck in the past, but because certain songs became part of who they are. So now I'm curious, what's the one song that instantly takes you back to another time in your life? What memory does it bring back? And when you hear it today, do you miss that time? Or do you simply miss the person you were back then? Let me know in the comments.